الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
The path of those you've blessed from before, the righteous and the truthful and more, the prophets and the truthful and more, the righteous and those who bore witness to the truth by giving their lives in an instant. Not the path of those who earned your anger, or those who went astray, earned your anger by knowing the truth and rejecting it, or going astray by never knowing it at all, never detecting it. What you've just heard recited are the most oft-repeated words in human history. There's no passage, no hymn, no prayer that's spoken more frequently on more lips, nor memorized in more hearts than this. 17 times a day, every time that we pray, this is what we say, this is what we say. Al-Fatiha. So am I going to need to do this with you guys? I always have to give a speech as to how to respond to poetry. Because Muslims, anytime you put them in a artistic environment, they pretend like they're in a library. So let's do this. There's a number of styles, okay? There's a number of styles. So number one is American style. If you've ever been to a poetry event, how do they applaud? So it's the finger snap, right? So the finger snap. Then we have Egyptian style. We have Egyptians here, correct? So try that out. Allah, Allah. Allah, Allah. Allah yafta alayk, that also works. Sometimes it's Allah khrib baytak. It depends on the energy level, right? It depends on the excitement. Then we have Muslim style. You want to get rewarded, so then it's takbir, like someone said. So you always need a takbir uncle in a crowd. So who's our takbir uncle? Our takbir nephew, mashallah. Okay, takbir. Okay, that works. Allahu Akbar. Then we have one brother, he told me one time, he said, what about Pakistani style? And I said, what's that? And he went like this, vah vah. So go ahead, try that. You have to twist your hand. Go ahead, vah vah. Is there any other styles that we're unaware of? There's Sudanese style, but there's nobody here, I don't think, who'd be able to do it. Sudanese style is when you swing this finger, and then you make it hit this finger. So it's like this. No, you can't do it. I told you. That's Egyptian?
Yeah, it works.
So let's see, show us Egyptian.
No.
Exactly, so it's not, it's Sudanese style. So usually it's abshir, they go like this, abshir bil khair or something like that. But you have to have drank from the Nile, you have to have been bathed in the African sun to be able to pull something like that off. So those are all acceptable styles. Feel free, inshallah ta'ala. But we have, let's do Surah Al-Ikhlas.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد.
Say Allah is one. Now there are 5 chapters of the Quran that with the word say begin. Al-Falaq, Ikhlas, Nas, Al-Kafirun, and Al-Jinn. Now the word say decrees the Prophet upon whom be peace did it alter the revelation received, not in the least, and Al-Ahad in description exceeds, but to be brief, the one and only with uniqueness indeed that doesn't cease.
Allahu Samad.
As-Samad is the master, who none can speak after, and the one you ask for in need and disaster. Yet he needs no one, no partners and no son, no internal organs, no nutrition is needed, it's not a notion.
قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد.
He begets not, nor was he begotten. So we've got a couple of things here. Number one is that English is very old, right? Like, when have you ever said, did she beget yet? You don't say that, right? It means he has no children, and no one has ever had it. But then I have another question for you. Did you have children first, or were you born first? Which one? It's not a trick question. You were born first, right? So why does Allah say, lam yalid wa lam yulad? He does not have children, nor was he born of anyone. He begets not, nor was he begotten. It means he has no children and no one has ever had him. And he negates children first before parents, even though the circle of life is obviously oppositely apparent, because most tracks to shirk that shaitan brings is by associating to Allah, not parents, but offspring.
ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
And there is none like him. He has no partners, no equals, no updates, no sequels, no angels, no people. To think so is lethal to all those who are seeking God. He alone is the one to be feared and awed. He alone is the one to be revered and sought. He alone is the one, and he loves the odd. Allahu Akbar. Okay, you guys are warming up a little, mashallah. Great, great. By 1 a.m., you guys will be ready, inshallah. Let's do Surat Abasa. You're trying to be here all night. Abasa. We're doing like 3 verses, 4 verses. Let's do Surat Al-Falaq, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق.
Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of the daybreak. Al-Falaq and the Nas are 2 chapters where we're instructed by the divine to come to a safe place, a safe space where he assigns us protection from the evil of everything.
قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق.
From the evil that he created. The evil of every human, the evil of every jinn, the evil of every creature, the evil of every sin. Don't forget about all of the evil that lies within. And when reciting these words, you come under the protection of the king.
ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب.
Al-Ghasiq is the night, the majority of scholars say, because under the cover is night. Under the cover of night is when evil comes out to play and the wicked come out to pray and the righteous resign to pray. So we seek refuge in the Lord of daybreak and light from the evil and the darkness of the night.
قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد.
And from the evil of those who blow on knots. Now the practice of magic long ago was rightly banned. I'm talking real magic, not illusions or sleight of hand, because magic was described by the Prophet as a mortal sin because true magic in its essence involves the worship of the jinn.
ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
And from the evil of those who envy. Now, how can I describe to you how evil of a sin envy is? What if I told you that it was the first sin committed in the heavens, making shaitan's arrogance flare, or for him to even dare to reject a commandment? Or what if I told you that it was the first sin committed on earth, making Qabil kill his brother, turning a family into a fraction? Now, envy defined is pretty precise. It's not that you see something someone has and wish to have it too. It's that you see a blessing someone has and wish that blessing was removed. Wish they didn't have that money. Wish they didn't have that house. Wish their kids weren't so special. Wish they didn't have that spouse. Wish they didn't have those followers on that Instagram account. And like fire burns wood, envy burns good deeds. And it creates animosity amongst those who believe. The envier creates hatred, tension, and friction. They harm those who they envy, but they see themselves the victim. Now, how can envy be removed from a heart that's diseased? First, it's to recognize that risk is something that was destined and decreed long before we entered into this earthly abode. And second, when your heart tells you to envy, just say no. Don't ask Allah for them to have less. Ask Allah to increase their share, and shaitan will stop his whispers once he realizes that it'll only result in your prayer. Allah, Allah. نختمها بالناس. Just do Surah Al-Nas, inshallah, so that we can call it a night. At least I can call it. Sheikh Ibrahim is still up next, inshallah. Surah Al-Nas.
قل أعوذ برب الناس.
Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of mankind. Rabb is the master, sustainer, nourisher, creator, developer, maintainer, and Allah is the Rabb of us all.
قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس.
The king of mankind. And Allah's kingship is unlike any other. It is a reign without end.
إله الناس.
The deity of mankind. And if Allah is your Lord and your King, then He's the only one worthy of your worship and your being, your fear, love, hope, your worship and your submission and the humbling of your heart, your hearing and your vision.
قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس.
From the evil of the whispering retreater. Now follow me here. In Surah Al-Falaq, you seek refuge in one attribute of Allah from the evil of four of His creation. You seek refuge in the Lord of the daybreak from the evil of His creation, of the night, of magic, and of envy. But in Surah An-Nas, you seek refuge in three attributes of Allah from the evil of one, the accursed, the devil, the very worst enemy of mankind. In the Quran, you're told so many times to take him as an enemy, and to take him as an enemy means to prepare for war and to know the outcome of each battle waged and to be keeping score and to be occupied daily by this task at hand, knowing that he won't rest until you're destroyed to the last man. Al-Khannas means the one who retreats, because shaitan whispers in your heart and stays at that post, but if you remember the name of God, he's gone, he's ghost.
قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس.
The one who whispers in the chests of mankind. Shaitan flows in our veins like the flowing of blood, constantly whispering and inciting, encouraging and inviting. But his whispers for the believer are a metric that they can use, because he only whispers to your heart things that you might approve. I mean, he wouldn't whisper murder to someone who would never harm a mouse. And he won't whisper drugs to someone if that's not what they're about. He only whispers in your heart things that might gain some traction, where he may get a reaction or positive reaction. So if he's whispering to your heart major things, then you should be having alarms of danger ring.
من الجنة والناس.
From the jinn and mankind. Now some jinn are from the devils, but some are from the human race. Might speak your own tongue, be from your own town, your own country, your own place, might speak your own tongue like you're staring into your own face. Just remember that, so you don't fall for their dark embrace. Allahu Akbar. Jazakumullah khair, everybody. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Abdurrahman. Thank you very much for your warmth. And I am going to make a quick plug that this book, which includes some of these pieces, is going to be outside, inshallah ta'ala. I'm going to sign it. It's my book of poetry. Outside, inshallah, in the Al-Maghrib booth after Sheikh Ibrahim lights up the stage. Jazakumullah khair. Do I need to intro you, or do people know you here? Is it your hometown?
Yeah, I spoke. Okay. Jazakallah khair. That was amazing, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum. All praise belongs to Allah, perfect without flaw, worthy of worship, deserving of awe. He who sent the prophet as a sparkling star in a darkening world with a fiery law. He delivered the message and fulfilled the trust and advised this nation before he left and eclipsed the darkness to remove distress. And in the path of Allah, he exerted his nafs. He set this nation upon the enlightened way. Its night as bright as the light of day. And as for those who lost his way, destroyed are they for having gone astray. So may Allah reward the Prophet due to his ummah and cause us to succeed due to following his sunnah, and gather us on the day of judgment in his procession, and make us from the people of his intercession. Upon his family and companions, Allah's peace and blessings, and those who follow them in righteousness until the resurrection. Allahumma ameen. In the beginning, there was darkness, and the godless ruled over the earth. And light was just a legend told beneath the heavens until the prophet's birth. Dunya, a dying planet on the brink of curse in 6th century Arabia, was a black hole at the center of the universe. And then there was Ahmed, alayhi salatu wassalam, star shooting a beam of light from Amina's womb to the land of Sham. His birth was a celestial wonder with all the charm and the splendor expected of thunder. The world welcomed Muhammad with exceptional honor in the year of the elephant when Allah protected his Kaaba. An orphan set in orbit where few would even bother, for sun is not as bright in absence of father, but this boy of Abdullah had a light that was fuller than the moon on the middle night of a lunar cycle in June, brighter than the sun shining at high noon. Those who knew the signs knew his arrival was soon. It was only a matter of time, and their idols were doomed. The rise of a prophet in the East is a sight to witness, an astronomical phenomenon as rare as full solar eclipses every few thousand years, when the earth becomes barren of faith and pregnant of fear, and the horizon, discolored and smeared, becomes heavy with tears. The heavens give up her blessings, and a messenger appears. How luminescent and clear, a once in an eon Sirajun Munir, a monumental occasion for all to revere. The messenger is here with revelation to hear. So be present in this moment with your eyes and your ears. When a comet crashes from the sky, they point and they cheer. But when a prophet passes by, they mock and they sneer. When the emergence of a messenger is more astounding and rare and more worthy of awe than any star you compare, they should listen and adhere to the composition they hear. But instead, they turned and fled as if Armageddon was here. In the beginning, there was darkness, and the godless ruled over the earth. And light was just a legend told beneath the heavens until the prophet's birth. Dunya, a dying planet on the brink of curse. And 6th century Arabia was a black hole at the center of the universe. And then there was Ahmed, alayhi salatu wassalam. I feel blinded by the scattering of dust, the crumbling of hopes and the shattering of trust. Clothes tattered, I stand battered upon the cusp, nearly tackled by the falsehood and trampled in the rush. Distraught by the thought of it, my heart nearly busts. Nauseous but still cautious, I look on in disgust. I see pain in the eyes of my brother. I wish to ask him, why do you suffer? Children in the foreground crying from the hunger. 3 years of boycott, now they're dying from the hunger. Fresh food placed in dedication at the feet of stones, just out of reach of people starving in their homes. Hear the belches of the wealthy scraping their plates and discarding their bones, drowning out the sounds of hungry children as they moan and they groan. Is so peculiar, yet still so familiar. Inanimate idols draped with gold and silver, I smell destruction in the air, the same type of blast that left Ad in despair, the type of storm that forms out of nowhere and leaves nations with no traces, as if no one ever lived there. Please, Lord, I beg you, let them heed the warner before the flood rushes in from every corner, before the sky bursts and the earth gives up its water. Please, Lord, I beg you, let them heed the warner. My eyes can no longer longer bear this torture. They abuse their women and bury their daughters. Slaves are given graves for living brave, slaughtered and made into martyrs. So long as their faith doesn't falter or waver, they'll be laid on the altar of falsehood and offered to false gods, cheering too loud to even hear the sobs and the tears of God's servants as their skins are flogged. A man walks into the raging darkness of a heartless mob and recites from God what strikes as hard as a lightning rod. A silver lining has pierced the fog. It would have pierced their hearts, but their ears were clogged. Thank you. Hey, you say sakhin. I need anything hot to drink, mashallah. All right, 2 more poems, inshallah. So this is a new collection that I've worked on for the past 2 years, Seerah-inspired poetry. Following a book I also wrote, Touch of Gold, Quran-inspired poetry, which I'll have tonight. And one of the inspirations behind it was to make it easy for people to connect and memorize the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. So I tried to compile some of the most significant moments that we remember from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ in poetic form, inshallah. So that's what I'm sharing tonight, inshallah. 2 more pieces, hopefully. I'm glad Ammar warmed up the crowd for me, mashallah. I get all of the barakah of going second. This is the year of sorrow. How somber the year of sorrow, that the heart could begin to hollow, if not for the silver lining shining with signs of a better tomorrow. The boycott barely ended before the bad news began to visit. But no matter how difficult it became, the prophet never lost spirit. The death of his beloved uncle, who raised him like a father, would not have been so devastating had he taken his shahada. He tried to save him from the blaze of the fire before his days could expire, but in the very last moment, he caved in and gave in to desire, a crushing blow to the heart and soul of a wounded prophet who also lost protection in Mecca with the death of Abu Talib. It must be such a blessing to have a nephew like Muhammad. But even as a relative, his destiny was promised. See, the truth that Allah reveals does not change according to the pain we feel. You guide not who you love, but Allah guides whom He wills. And sometimes the wound is reopened before having time to fully heal. Still grieving for his uncle, and now his wife is ill. Life is real, and when time finally expired and her life was sealed, her part in the prophet's heart would never twice be filled. She believed in him and supported him since the first ayah revealed, gave her wealth and her health to help Allah's Khalil. So Allah sent her salam by way of Jibril and glad tidings of paradise where no pain she would feel. And if ever in the dictionary was the true definition of a man, no one would be more worthy than Allah's messenger, alayhi salatu wassalam, as he washed the body of his beloved and shrouded her with his own blessed hands. The profundity of the pain we will never fully understand. How somber the year of sorrow, that the heart can begin to hollow, if not for the silver lining shining with signs of a better tomorrow. The mourning never ended and the bad news was extended. But no matter how difficult it became, the prophet never lost spirit. Without his wife for affection and his uncle for protection, and with the persecution of the Muslims at the height of its aggression, it's a wonder how the prophet didn't spiral in depression. But the height of his distress, by the prophet's own confession, was not the losses of his loved ones, but the height of his rejection when he traveled out to Ta'if to call the people to the message, and they pelted him with stones and caused the bleeding of the blessed. Pain beyond expression to be met with such aggression. But his reaction of compassion was the sign of his perfection. The angel of the mountain came down for their destruction, and so it would have been had he given the instruction. But the spirit of the prophet, still filled with mercy, thought the guidance of their offspring a prayer more worthy. So he set aside any pride, and he prayed not for their demise. He'd rather see a nation arise from the seas they left behind. So in a prayer like no other, still bruised and battered, drenched in blood, clothes torn and tattered, with hope and fear, he invoked his master. If his Lord is not displeased, nothing else really matters. No wonder his noble character was praised and apprised, and in the lowest year of his life, he was raised to the skies. How somber the year of sorrow, that the heart could begin to hollow, if not for the silver lining shining with signs of a better tomorrow. The morning was extended, and the bad news continued to visit, but from the deepest depths of the dunya, the messenger ascended. Jazakumullahu khairah. One more time, inshallah. Last poem. Who can guess what this one is? Huh? Before Medina, so we're still in the Mecca Sirah right now. Isra wal Mi'raj. All right? Let's see if I can remember it, inshallah. The journey through the dark starts with the ablution of the heart. And whether you walk to the mosque or travel on Buraq, the lighthouses of Allah are there to be sought. In the ascension to Allah, there is a lesson to be taught, as it started with ablution and it ended with salat. Glory be to the one who took his slave by night on a miraculous journey between two sacred sites, from the sacred mosque in Mecca to the furthest mosque in Quds, where blessings have been embedded in every square foot, so that Allah could show him some of his greatest signs, that the power of Allah is beyond the capacity of humankind, and the greatness of Allah is beyond the capacity of the human mind, and no vision can capture the divine. He is too sublime, and if he wishes at any moment, he can change the condition of humankind. Thus, in just a short portion of the night, the prophet was transported at the speed of light upon the back of a pure white beast, whose every stride was as wide as the eyesight could reach, until he reached the site where the prophets of Allah, upon them all be peace, would gather for a moment that can't be described by speech. The prayer is qiyam, and the place is in Sham, and the chosen imam is none other than the messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, and his blessed ablution was made with iman, as Jibril washed his heart with faith and zamzam. And the congregation is the prophet of every nation in the history of Islam. From them is Musa and Isa and Ibrahim. The recitation of the Quran is especially grand. This may be the greatest occasion ever since the creation of man. Oh, that my eyes would be gifted a glance. Oh, that my ears would be given a chance. Oh, what I would give to be able to stand somewhere in the ranks between David and Sulaiman as they make takbir and raise their hands and praise their Lord in a deep state of trance. They shed tears when they hear the revelations of Ar-Rahman and fall down in prostration upon their faces and hands, until finally the prophet conveys salam and fulfills his pilgrimage to the sacred land. The prayer concludes, but the journey resumes. Now the moment has come for the prophet to choose. Jibril comes forward with drinks of two kinds, one filled with milk and the other filled with wine. And the prophet chose the purest, that which would actually nourish, in hopes that as a result, his nation would flourish. He has proven his purity and piety time and time again. Now the moment has arrived for the prophet to ascend heaven after heaven, prophet after prophet, each conveying their salam to the Prophet Muhammad. In the first heaven, he met Adam with extraordinary height. To gaze upon the man that Allah created with his hands must be a wondrous sight. Together he met Yahya and Isa in the second sky, one killed in the earth and one yet to die. The third heaven he met Yusuf, angelic in his appearance. He was given beautiful patience on top of beautiful perseverance. The fourth heaven was Idris, who was raised to a station so high that he actually met the angel of death in the very same sky. And then there was Malik, the keeper of hell. He was brought to the prophet to greet him as well, but he did not smile like those he met prior, and he has never smiled since he was placed in charge of the fire. The fifth heaven was Harun, known by his brother for his eloquent speaking. How splendid it must have been when he extended the greeting. The sixth heaven, there was Musa, who began to cry, "This young man, Muhammad, will have a greater following than I." The seventh heaven was Ibrahim, leaning on the side of Baytul Ma'mur, surrounded by thousands of children who died while they were pure. He conveyed his salam to the ummah, and he wanted us to know that the trees of paradise are planted with our praise in the earth below. And in the midst of the bliss of this heavenly tour was the legendary lote tree with colors never seen before. Ascend, O Prophet, heaven after heaven, until he arrived at a level where even Jibril was forbidden. He could hear the scraping of the pen as the decree was being written. But what we all wished to see was still kept hidden. He could not encompass his Lord with his limited sight. All he could see was the veil of light. 3 gifts he was given on that miraculous night. The last 2 verses of Baqarah for protection, intercession, and light, and the promise that every Muslim will eventually enter the garden of delight, and the 5 daily prayers, so hold them tight, for they are worth 50 in Allah's perfect sight. When he descended to Jerusalem from the world beyond and traveled back home on Buraq, it was still before dawn. Completely unaware of how long he was gone, he returned to his bed and found it still warm. The journey through the dark starts with the ablution of the heart. And whether you walk to the mosque or travel on Buraq, the lighthouses of Allah are there to be sought. In the ascension to Allah, there's a lesson to be taught, as it started with ablution and ended with salat. May Allah perfect our prayers and cleanse our hearts so that we too can ascend when life becomes dark. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah reward you all for your listening. I know it's late, and normally the first day everybody's tired a little bit earlier. But anyone who is interested, I will be right outside the door at the reception with my book collections, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.